This is Take This With You, a special series from Social Justice Origin Stories. Storytelling is a gift, and in this series, storytellers reflect on what they hope stays with you after their episode ends. As you listen to their sharing, consider this moment an invitation to reflect on your own journey. Here we go.
For those folks in your life who have poured into you, giving them their flowers, so to speak, while you have the opportunity, because this work is lonely and it's hard, and you need to know that it's helpful to somebody, right? That what you're doing is impacting someone in a meaningful way. And as someone on the receiving end, right, we know that the folks are not always going to be here. And so also letting them know while they're here so that they can receive that gratitude and that love in a way that they can share the space with you, I think that is important. So if you've got a mentor, a sister friend, a cousin, or whoever, right? And don't just say, I'm just so grateful. Yeah, you can say, I'm just so grateful. But also, you literally changed my perspective on something.
Yeah, fill in the details.
Fill in the details.
Yeah.
You really gave me language that I didn't have before, and I am grateful for that. Is, I think, something that, one, they would love to hear, and then two, that is also, as a very empathetic person, I think it is a good thing to share and to share that space with people. So that's one. Two, we talked about the educational curriculum in my space, right? Of thinking about not seeing myself in the K-12 system, and then finally seeing myself and seeing my family, my history in college, and that awakening and all of those things. History, books, language. I'm a reader, so I recognize that everyone doesn't read books, but I think there is a beautiful thing in taking a course or two, or reading a book, or watching a movie, or whatever, in your lineage, right? But then also in an alternative space, right? And seeing that perspective and how culturally relevant education adds a nuance and a lens to the way you view things can really grow you as a person. And I would empower folks in the DEI space. Our country was built on racist practices and a system on race. And also just continue to nuance DEI work and to push us forward. We need to be very intentional about educating ourselves in the queer space, in ability. Ableism is so under-talked about. It is astounding that 1 in 5 people either is disabled or will have a disability at some point in their life, and we don't talk about it. We have to continue to push the conversation. The last thing I would say is for us to continue to reflect, especially those of us in the DEI space who work for institutions or corporations. How do we sort of balance that pushing and pulling that we talked about earlier when we were talking about the union space, of how do we balance negotiating social justice values, ethics, policies, and working with spaces that we know are oppressive? I think we all need to think about and be reflective on what that looks like, and how are we navigating that and negotiating those things internally? Because I often internally have to be like, okay, is that a win? Did I win? Or is it a win at all? Or how much do I push this executive team, this organization, this whatever, without overwhelming folks? And how much do I not push? I map out the balance, but I think it is a conversation collectively as DEI folks we don't really talk about. I think we all do it, and I think we all think about it, but as like a collective, we never think about, okay, how do we navigate that? What I would want folks to take away is the word that's here is grace and space. And I think what I mean by that is there's no one way to be. And there are a lot of ways that people are. And we have to have grace for those experiences. You have to create room for people to share who they are, what they know, and then have grace for what folks don't know and what people are still learning and what people need to unlearn. And I think change is possible in that. I think expansion is possible in that. And that's not to say that it's not, like I said earlier, it's not to say that it's hard or that it's not going to be uncomfortable. It will be. Just accept that. But expanding what we know, expanding our ways of knowing, expanding what we know about how people show up in this world, I think I want people to take that part away, to actively seek to give folks grace for how they show up in the world, to create space for disagreement and for unlearning and for maybe we're not all on the same page about our idea about change and revolution and action and all of that, but where are we alive? Do we both love our mama? You know what I mean?
Right.
Is there some little person that we care about leaving the world to and leaving the world in a better place than it was for us? Do we care
That's
about
right.
that?
That's
If
right.
that's what we care about, then let's make that the center and figure out how we unlearn things that are harmful for our little ones. And we don't have to all fit into the same box. We don't all have to say we're the same thing. Like we could be different and still be fighting towards the same goals. We could have different approaches towards the same goals and creating the space to explore what that is, explore where we can work together and where we can unlearn things and let go of things that are harmful to all of us. I think that's my best answer to that question for now. But grace and space are where I am. Create space for folks and give folks grace to catch up to wherever you are.
I would encourage people to create a gratitude practice if they don't have one. There's a bunch of science and research actually that says that it makes people happier. I believe that to be true in my own life, but I really would. It doesn't have to be 5 a.m. It could be before you go to sleep. What are 2 things you feel gratitude for during that day? There's lots of ways to do it. So I really would encourage people to do that. I would encourage people to get support, whether that's through a coach or a coachy friend. We all have those coachy friends that like to hear and hold space. Hopefully most of us do. I'm not saying everybody does. And I hope that people can ask themselves that question, what is mine to hold and what belongs to the system, right? Because the options to change are different, right? It doesn't mean that you don't work against the system. Of course you do, but the approaches are different. And so I hope that people can ask themselves that question next time they're feeling some of the things that come up. And it might be also within our families, which are systems, right? What is mine
Yes.
and belongs to
That's right.
someone else doesn't participate in the change, but it might mean that your approach and the toolkit that you use is a little bit different. I think it's a transformational question. And so I really encourage people to ask themselves that with care and with love, right? And listen to what comes up. The answers might be really important answers.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a great question. Let me tell one more.
Yeah, go
one
for
more
it.
story
Go for it.
about all the awful things that I've done. Here's one of the lighter versions. But one of the things me and my group of folks used to do was a lot of property damage. And so we would ride around different neighborhoods. We'd actually drive to, I almost want to name the places because I know you would know,
Oh
know
yeah,
the places, but I won't.
know. I would
But
know. Yeah,
we-
we'll know.
Yeah, but I would drive to nicer neighborhoods and we would just get out and wreak havoc. We would just destroy cars and do some other not so great stuff like some B&Es and yeah, just do a lot of property damage. And And I remember, just because it was quite literally night and day. So night, we went out and I destroyed a lot of cars, breaking up windows, pulling stuff out, not doing anything with it either. Like, not stealing a stereo to go sell it, just being so angry and just taking it out on things. And the next day, I decided to go to school. So I went to school, and I had a 92 Chevy Astrovan, which I remember so fondly because I basically lived out of it. I quite literally did live out of it for a good chunk of my life. But it was everything to me. It was like literally my house. It was literally the way in which I got to the place that I worked, that I could afford food. It was everything. It was key to my literal life or death survival, was this 92 Chevy Astro. And I get out of school the next day after doing all of this stuff that previous evening, and all of the windows were smashed in. My stereo was stolen, and all of the CDs, we were CDs at the time, a direct connection to this is what it feels like. You literally just did this 24 hours ago, and it just happened to you. And what are you feeling? I have no place to sleep. I'm not going to be able to stay warm. I'm not going to be able to get to this place of employment so I can get food. Music was the only thing that helped me heal and process, and it had just been completely wiped away, and it was just this destitute. This just, everything was gone. And it was like, Tay, this is what you do to other people. This is the ways in which other people feel. And I tried to explain it away. I was like, yeah, but we went to the rich neighborhood. We went to the people with privilege. And I say all of that because I am a person in that neighborhood today. I am a person with privilege today. And so I'm reminded of that event almost in everything that I do. Again, that example of I've been oppressed, but I've also been the oppressor. And that's the thing that I learned the most of, is those direct connections. Is that direct, I oppressed, and then someone oppressed me 24 hours later, and I got to feel viscerally what that felt like. Yeah. And I'm just always reminded that if I'm at my absolute worst, if I am feeling mad and angry, or the injustice is too much, I remind myself of the immense privilege that I have. I'm reminded of those folks who were like me, who had far less. So while I'm busy being sad at my giant tax bill or like whatever mundane, who cares problem, I'm just like reminded of like how many people didn't have that, don't have access to that, right? Maybe a better analogy is one time, oh my gosh, so I don't know if this was true the few blocks away in which you live, but our gas stations were rough. One of these gas stations had a flood, and the water got into whatever underground gas tank, and they didn't put anything on it. And so I go to pump gas and put it in my car, and I ain't got no money. Just probably would like $20 would have filled my whole tank. But like, it was like, in order to get to work, I need $4, and I've got 2, and I'm searching for change. That's the level of where I was at. Yeah. And it ends up being water. Like I fill water into my gas tank.
Wow.
So I pull off, I get maybe not even a quarter mile away. I can probably get like blocks away from the gas station, and the car is totaled. There is nothing bringing this car back.
Yeah.
I literally spent my last $2, actually searched for change, right? So I don't have any money. On my way to work, cannot get to work, in a vehicle in which I live out of. And I'm left with literally nothing. And I told that story once in a better articulated case study sort of a way.
Yeah.
And someone was just like, oh, yeah, but why didn't you just call a taxi and take the taxi to work? I didn't have any money. Gosh, why didn't you just call up your mom or dad? I didn't have any family. I don't have family. And also, you're assuming that I have a cell phone? I couldn't afford a cell phone, let alone a cell phone plan,
Right.
right? Maybe AAA would have came out, or a tow company. What? How would I possibly afford that? I can't pay for them to move the vehicle, let alone to a place
Yeah.
that is going to charge me thousands of dollars to fix the thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm just reminded of that, because it's like a fish in water, right? To some of us, we're like, yeah, that would have happened to me. It would have ruined my day. But I would have gotten on my cell phone. I would have called AAA. They would have come within 30 minutes. In the meantime, I would have ordered a Lyft. I would have gotten to work. Or better yet, I would have called my place of work and been like, wow, I just had some car trouble. And they would have said, no worries, take some PTO.
Mhm.
We're going to give you some paid time off today to figure it out. So while I was waiting for AAA, I'd call my loved one. They'd come pick me up and hang out with me. Maybe we'd go get a bite to eat. Then we would go home and know that it's at the shop. And then I'd be able to get a ride to the shop once the car was fixed, pay the shop to get that car back, and all would be copacetic. And just think about that story. I literally could not have done any of those things. The lesson that I want other folks to know is that so many people out there are struggling with things that you will literally never know about. You cannot see, you cannot hear, you will have zero idea whether they're in a fancy neighborhood or not.
Or not.
You have no idea who that person is or their struggles with. Even the people who I want to disregard and throw away, who I see as just doing unreputable harm. I have no idea who hurt them. I have no idea where they came from. I have no idea what their socialization was like, what their situation is. And it motivates me, one, to problem solve and to navigate in a much more healthier, trauma-informed way. It helps ground me to do less harm when I'm in those situations. And so I learn more, I advocate more, I advocate harder. You know, I'm just saying it's so powerful to be introspective of how your identities and privileges show up. And I think knowing that is so critical to learning and growing. And I think that is what helps me the most.
I think that it's important that with all of these supervisory principles for folks to know that there's not a simple, easy checklist, right? Just like with enacting any justice work or equity work, even though that might make it simple and easy to know, here are the 10 steps you do, and then hooray, you've made it. This is an ongoing process, right? It's ongoing work to practice more liberatory forms of relating with one another, including in our supervisory relationship. I don't have a simple checklist or a list of 5 things to do, but the ongoing practice of being aware of the soil that we're all growing in at our organizations through educating yourself and one another is one strategy. Another is to cultivate humility and to know that whoever you're engaging with, regardless of their level or position in the organization, we all are valuable and valid sources of knowledge, and we all have things that we can learn from one another. So practicing in an ongoing way that humility for yourself, I think, inevitably shifts the way that we relate to others. And then remembering that even though we all might feel disempowered in our organizations, we all have some power to make change or rectify injustice. So remembering that folks who are supervisors not just be aware of what their supervisees are facing, but can also play a role in trying to shift and change some of the circumstances, knowing that you may not see the changes. So I had a supervisee who was a gay man interested in building his family. And at the time, the institution where I worked had no paid leave for him. The way that paid family leave worked there is that you had to physically birth a child to get any paid leave. No other way of bringing a child into your family would get you paid leave. And talked about this during his hiring process. We talked about it during our one-on-ones because this was something he was really interested in. And so I wrote up a proposal, went to HR. I did benchmarking research on what other campuses were doing. I was doing a lot of this work to try and show yes, this will cost the institution more money, but it's something that we need to do for our team members. And I left that institution in 2020, and it wasn't until 2023 that the family leave policy was expanded, but it was expanded ultimately. And it was many people's work set into that. But I think it can be disheartening at times in our institutions or organizations that are very resistant to change. But knowing that even some of the work that we do that might not see an immediate impact, even knowing that work is building on work that others have done and others are going to build on it when we go on, I think is an important reminder, because until we have organizations where everyone feels like they can take the time off that they need to be well, that they have the healthcare that they need, that they are able to have a full life outside of work and any other caregiving responsibilities they have, that they don't have to sacrifice those things for work. Until we have that at our institutions and organizations, we don't have equitable institutions or organizations. Even if those policies are beyond us individually as supervisors or as leaders, there are ways that we can still elevate those as issues that need to be addressed or changed. And so I encourage folks who are listening, who are inspired by that thought, to work toward it in your own ways, to know also when it's time to leave institutions or organizations that don't have your best interest at heart. And I've grappled with this in my own career as well, but making change and advocating for injustice to be addressed, that's not easy work. And sometimes it only you can know, I think, but sometimes we need to know when it's time to say, all right, this is not an organization that has my best interests at heart, and I've done what I can, and now it's time for me to move on. Knowing that's right to do as well, I think, is what I would leave folks with. But I'm often inspired by the words of Grace Lee Boggs, who says that we are the leaders that we've been waiting for. And I think that if we can remember that we have the wisdom and lived experience within us that can fuel our path towards seeking justice, it can go a long way in reminding us of everything we have in a world that often likes to tell us everything that we don't.
Please continue to tell your stories. Like I love for my mom to continue to tell her stories, or if we're telling stories of people who are no longer with us, let's continue to do that. Let's not make it one book or one documentary or one thing about folks, but let's continue to unravel the complexities of who we are as folks striving to lead in movements, right? And I do think that's another elevator thing. We're leaderful, right? Thank you for uncovering the nuances. Like my mom didn't just say about everything she did right, you know. It was just like all of the times she felt afraid, times she could have done something differently.
That's what I'm talking about.
You know, that. Yeah, keep telling us about that, because that, you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. The kind of sharing. Yeah.
That invites everyone to see themselves as able to lead, because we can't have any heroes. The hero thing does not work. Then people don't see themselves. First of all, they're certain to topple, right? We put them on a pedestal. They can't stay up there forever.
Yeah,
they will topple.
That's right.
And the other piece is that we need for people to be able to see leadership in the work is accessible to them, and that they have a role in it. We all have a role to play. Everybody has a role to play. That sounds cliche, but it's so true. And the role we play can go a lot of different directions. So see yourself in it, but I'm not imploring this in a neutral way, because remember, everybody has power too. And as they're building power, they have a choice and how they're going to use it.
How you going to use it?
How you going to use it? So that's it. Like, not, people see orators, right? People who give speeches as leaders. It is just a strategy of leadership, right? How are we bringing more power to more people? And then, will a speech help me do that? Yes or no? Or maybe something else will help you do that.
In that, I think it illuminates a lot of room and a lot of possibility, because I will say sometimes, at least I've felt like there is sort of a prioritization of the stuff that like out there and in front, and just recognizing there's a variety of different ways to intervene, to take action. And so hoping folks who are out there listening to this are reminded of that. Like, it doesn't have to look one way. The hero thing is done with. It reminded me of the early conversation we had off the air in preparation for this. I was just talking about sports teams and the idea of one person carrying a team. I'm challenged by, because there's lots of other things that factor into how we get to success, And so I appreciated you using the speeches as an example, just reminding folks like it's a variety of different ways to contribute.
As a visionary, man, you have to see things others don't see so that you do what others won't do, right? And there's people who invented anything, saw a light bulb, created a light bulb. People who saw a stoplight, they saw something no one else saw. And if you see something nobody else is seeing, they're gonna see you weird. You're gonna be by yourself. You got a podcast on social justice. Right? Then it becomes, and pretty soon it becomes, well, that's the thing to do. Comfort kills more dreams than failure ever will, man. And so it's one of them kind of things where keep pushing the dream, the vision. It's going to be weird. It's going to be different. There's a level of stewardship and responsibility for that. There's a lot of lessons in that space, man. And you have to really, truly believe in what it is that you're passionate and called to do in this space. Not necessarily worried about validation from anybody else. And everybody has a part, and People Be With You has a part to play in it. But man, it's going to be those challenges in those spaces, which you got to recognize that it may take a bunch of years. I don't think it was till about maybe 8 years or so. It was a tipping point where we could have shut a bunch of stuff down and just changed it. But we didn't. We made it, we was scrappy with it. We did whatever. Yeah. And then things turn a corner. We're able to move in a different way. But then if you don't hold on, holding on may look differently than when you first started and when you get going. But don't let go of that piece and push through some stuff that may be in front of you in spaces like that. Howard Thurman said another great quote, man: refuse the awful temptation to scale down your dreams to the level of the event, which is your immediate experience. In other words, if your immediate experience right now is bigger than your dream, you ain't dreaming big enough. When the mics don't work and the app ain't working right, we're gonna get on the phone, hit record. We're gonna record this daggum show.
That's right.
We'll make it work. I mean, and our people have always made $1 out of 15 cents everywhere we went. I don't care if they have money or no money. They made $1 out of 15 cents. It's being able to know that, one, people put on football equipment because they're going to get hit, but they also going to hit back. So it's not like, I got hit, I'm playing football. You playing the game. You in this game, the money ain't going to come through. So plan for the money not to come through, and plan for 6 different ways to find $1. And know some people who can give you the dollars, and know some people who can give you a little bit. Let me give you all. Know you got to cultivate that relationship with all these little nuances so that you're not, well, I got hit. Not that it doesn't hurt. Not that you're not shook up. Not that you don't need to get your breath. Let me get back in this game. Because the dream is bigger than my immediate experience. My immediate experience doesn't define. My immediate experience is what I need to have. So when the dream is manifesting, I'm able to carry that joy. But if I didn't build the strength along the way of getting knocked down and get picked back up, and then, I hit to my back. I knocked him out. I got this. Well, all of a sudden, it's like when the dream comes, I ain't got enough strength to carry the joy because I skirted past, did a shortcut here and there, and sit down. Girl's not weight of it came. Yeah. That's why the long walk in the same direction is important, because you're going to get there in a minute, man. You can't wait to see what it's going to look like at the lake. And so you let that drive you so that when things are darker, you're able to say, it ain't always going to be this way. That's right. Really mean it. You really mean it. But also, know that's coming. It's not like, I didn't expect that. You got a car, there's going to be some snow days. Your car's going to slide. Don't get in a car and be like, just drive it in the summertime. So when everything's nice and comfortable. So if you're aware of it, then it's, I knew this was going to come. I don't know how, but I know it was going to come. So you're able to avoid the shock of the hit because it's coming.
When I think about some of the other guests that you've had on the podcast, I think one of the things that your podcast does through each guest, tell me about the blessing and the burden, right? Tell me about, I want to hear both, right? I think we need to hear both. I think that's the big thing. I hope that everyone that has hung out with us for this time, they feel nudged, a little bit nagged, and inspired to go build what you dream. It doesn't matter at every age and stage. No matter how old you are, no matter where you're starting from, I hope folks leave ignited to incubate what they dream. But I also hope folks have heard through what I've shared today how important your humanity is to this, because what we need each other. You said it earlier. We need each other for the long haul. There is something beautiful about longevity, especially when we think about justice workers. We think about Fred Hamptons. We think about people, my grandmother. We think about people that left here prematurely. We see how AI, I think I forgot who did it, and they show how old Dr. King would have been in this one particular year. I want to see us age with this, because I do believe that I feel like there's this honor for ancestors, but some of us are becoming ancestors too soon. I have loved seeing how the press release for Denzel Washington, and he's 70, and everybody was like, showing up like he running errands. Like,
yeah, look at Denzel, Uncle Denzel. Yeah.
I'm doing the work that I love. I've already proven my brilliance. Y'all gonna get this. Old Navy.
That's right.
Is.
That's right.
But he was like, I'm showing up in my joy and my brilliance. There's no performative need for me. And I believe that was so impactful for many of us, because we were like, this is some of the beauty with age. I love watching that Whoopi Goldberg just launched her first all-women sports network. I love reading this book now that she's on the cusp of 70. I think something magical is there when we see our folks that have been champions of justice and equity and liberation have room to get older. I'm appreciating that wisdom now. Yeah, I still love hearing from young folks in the game. We need the whole continuum, the whole pipeline. But there's just something, I think maybe because I'm approaching 50, that I'm like, I love some salt and pepper situations. Like, I love a little, because I saw too many people die too soon or dissolve too soon, because the brokenness consumed the brilliance.
That's right.
And
that's right.
That's my heart for all of us, that we would, that we can hold space for both.
That's with B, right? So one of the mantras that keeps me going is this idea of be hungry, be curious, and be humble. Be hungry to figure out what's the problem that you're trying to solve in society. Don't get into the whole, what do you want to do? What problem do you want to solve? Because it allows you to bring your full self to trying to address that problem and seeing where you need to create partnerships, where you need to make things happen. Second is being curious. I think there's many different ways to accomplish in solving a problem. Some of it's through formal education, sometimes it's through partnerships, sometimes it's going and starting a company. There's many different ways to do that, but then also remembering that you have to think outside the box, but you also have to question why the box even existed to begin with. And we will never truly get to a just society if we always don't question the box that we're actually operating from. And the third, I would say, is be humble. You can't do this work alone or in isolation. For us to get to a truly just society, it requires building community. And so don't do it alone. Find the people that challenge you, find the people that encourage you, find the people that give you new ideas that inspire you. This work is coalition work. And so I just really reiterate to people, it keeps me going, but I hope it keeps other people going, and just remembering to be hungry, be curious, and be humble.
Now, as their words settle, take a moment to sit with them. What resonated with you? What's going to stay with you? Whose stories do you need to hear more of, and how will you make space for them? Do you have stories of your own to tell? How are you creating space to listen to your own voice, to honor your own experiences and affirm their reality? What do you need to be able to do that? Some stories stick with us because they grab us right away. Others because they ask us to sit with them for a while. But it's okay to sit with the things that linger, the feelings, the questions, the shifts we feel and are able to name, and the ones we aren't able to name just yet. I believe that if we work to establish those enabling conditions that allow us to listen deeply, deeply to ourselves and our experiences, and deeply to others, the answers we're looking for will begin to reveal themselves. The language will find us. The next steps will find us through listening deeply to ourselves and to others. We'll begin to realize what it is that we Can do next, should do next, must do next. So take this with you and take care until we meet again. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and subscribe to Social Justice Origin Stories wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch video episodes on YouTube at Social Justice Origin Stories, and I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe there as well. Video episodes are also available on the project website, socialjusticeoriginstories.com. I'd love to hear about how you're engaging with the stories. Share your thoughts at socialjusticeoriginstories.com/contact or by emailing stories@socialjusticeoriginstories.com. To support the work of Social Justice Origin Stories, consider becoming a monthly patron. Your contributions will help keep this research going and support its mission. Visit patreon.com/socialjusticeoriginstories to learn more and to make a contribution. Again, that's patreon.com/socialjusticeoriginstories. You can start or stop anytime. Social Justice Origin Stories is edited, hosted, and produced by me, Rolando Thompkins-Jones. Many thanks to many storytellers who have contributed to this project. And thank you for joining me this week. Take care.